Always weigh my items. Alrighty, so I'm gonna show you guys how I price my stuff. So I have a time and price calculator, and this is kind of how this is how I calculate my time, especially when I offer products or services that like vary in time. So when I have handmade items, I want to be very specific on how my time is valued and like what that means for the people buying my things. So I don't ever use the first 3 attempts. I usually get a good rhythm before I start. And then as soon as I feel like, okay, I've got the hang of this, like I can do it without like stopping to think like, oh, what's my next step? It's kind of like, it's got to be that good rhythm. Then I time at least 3 attempts. If I can time more, I will, especially if I feel like those 3 attempts are showing me dramatically different numbers. That's important. I will take the average and the standard deviations of those times. So in my formula here, so for example, I don't know what this is for, if I'm being honest. Whatever it was, I think this is actually for the scrunchies, my bad. So this is for the scrunchies. I timed it just, on my phone with the stopwatch timer. And I just did it from beginning to end, from cutting the fabric to getting it all sewn together. It took me 12 minutes the first time, 15, and then 15, almost a half. So I convert all of this to seconds because seconds are easier to work with for some reason. And then I will take the average duration by doing average function up here and then your range. So like I want E4 to E6, and that average duration gives me 859 seconds. So of that average duration, I also want to know how different, right? That's what the standard deviation is giving you. And so I take the standard deviation, again, of E4 to E6, and it's about 90 seconds off, which is interesting. I'm roughly a minute and a half over or under. That's what your standard deviation is telling you. So I add these 2 boxes, and that's how I get my duration. And I do a sum if, because the sum if will eliminate any blanks. It'll basically say, okay, if there's nothing here, then it won't calculate, if that makes any sense. I hope it does. I just kind of like messing with some ifs. Speaking of messing with it, don't touch it, Jenna. And this is also important to say, do not, this is your box to change. This is what you're putting in. From here on is all calculated. So don't change any of that because you're going to change your formula. If you change your formula, you got to start over. Undo button like crazy, fam. Anyway, so my total duration is here, and the wage per hour is set also in my product planner, which these 2 bottom ones, excuse you can see all my windows that are open. Chill. Ooh, man. Oh brother, we're kind of fucked. Okay, we'll just do that. Anyway, all down here, oh, now it's gone. That's so frustrating. So all down here, these 2 were kind of what I started with, and then I ended up putting it all in here, and those are all my product planners. So this is how I estimate how much a material is going to cost me, how much time is it taking, what are how is shipping going to look, how much does it weigh, that all that stuff is all in there. And then this is just kind of like my calculator page because I like to keep that separate. Anywho, I set mine at minimum wage, which I set it for my city, and I'm in Seattle, so I believe my minimum wage here is crazy. It's $19.97, so I want to make sure that that reflects here. So my wage per hour is my average duration in seconds times 1 over 3,600, because that is how many seconds are in an hour. All of that in parentheses, right? Multiplied by $19.97 because that's the wage. And then that spits out for me $5.30. So that tells me in the time it takes for me to do this, I have earned, hypothetically, $5.30. Let me know if that doesn't make any sense. Total time in minutes is here, so it's just here. It's just this times 1 over 60. and then total time in hours, because when I convert it on the other page, this time is really helpful for me to have because I'm doing wage by the hour, right? So if I know how many hours it took me, which is 0.27, then I know to put it in here at my product planner. So anywho, your minimum wage can be changed. Just it would need to be changed and reflected in your formula here. So if you don't want to make minimum wage and you want to make less than or greater than that, that needs to be adjusted there. And this is by the hour. So if you're doing by the minute, this would need to change, right? Boop, boop, boop. And then, yeah, export to the product services planner. So let's go to that. And you can see here is how I price my purses, which are all made by hand. A product photo can go there if you need like a visual, which I kind of do, but we're just kind of living on the edge right now. My product description, it's a purse. I have it all measured here in inches and in centimeters because I really like centimeters. It's a little bit more exact. Also, inches is dumb. Like, metric system is obviously easier. Anyway, this isn't like for me to on America for whatever measuring system that they use. I do the volume because when I order boxes, sometimes they give me the volume instead, and that volume is important to know how much volume do I have. And I also want to just make sure that no matter what the measurement, my product's gonna fit, and I don't need to take that time to convert it because it's all converted here, if you can see that. So F9, this is F9 times 2.54. It's all converted automatically. If you're American, to just like enter in the inches, boom, 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 you can just do it there. And I round up to the nearest tenth. Tenths is your first decimal place. So I always round up to the nearest tenth if I can, but then once I get into centimeters, then I do nearest hundredths. Hope that makes sense. Excuse me. Okay, this part's gonna get really nitty gritty, and I hope you stick with me. So I'm gonna just talk about real quick. Here's my wage box, right? $19.97. The time to create. These are boxes in which I input, right? A purse takes me 2 hours to create. I were to say, like, let's say an hour and a half, right? Then I would put in 1.5. Makes sense. Oh my gosh. And then my total material cost is going to be calculated from this sum. So we're going to go through that right now. All of my materials here are all linked because this is a difficult purse to keep track of where I get everything sometimes. And it's really helpful for me. I just link it real quick if I can. Obviously the box, I just say box because it's from Daiso. Daiso you can't buy online, you have to visit the store. I take all of the costs pre-tax. I just plug it right in. The reason I don't do it with tax is just because sales tax in Washington's kind of high and that would drive up my cost a ton, and so I kind of just take the hit and take the L where it is, and that's that. Do by the unit so that I know calculate the quantity, and so the quantity I need part of a yard. I need 0.12 of a yard because it's sold at $2.99. So even if I buy 6 yards, I'm going to calculate it by the yard. How much does that yard cost me and how much of that yard do I need? Because I'm obviously not going to use 6 yards of fabric on one purse. Likewise, right, for the box. A box is $1.75. I need 1. So I'm going to write 1. To which that spits out for me D16 times F16, D, F, 175. Because I only need 1. As here, I needed 0.012. That's going to calculate it here for me and say, oh, that only cost you 36 cents. And then so on and so on and so on and so on. The facts of 100, 6, and 5 are really tricky to calculate because it's like 759 divided by 50, and that's your each, and it's quantity, and then this. But it still kind of works out because the quantity, that's how I get it. That's how I get my quantity. If I only need 1 magnetic closure, pack of 50, I'm going to divide 759 divided by 50, and that's how I got 0.02. That's my quantity. I only need 1 of the 50, and that's going to give me, oh, it costs 15 cents. You can also find this, like Amazon does, like, usually, sometimes. Like, it'll tell you, like, oh, yeah, if you bought a hot glue stick, right, and it's a pack of 100, it would tell you, like, oh, that's 4 cents a piece. You could just do that there. But I just, calculate it real quick. It's not that hard. I also think I use less than a full stick, if I'm being honest, or more than a full stick. I actually don't know. So cost, the total material cost is just adding all of this with a sum function. And then that is just a box copy from here. So G22 is G22. right here. My wholesale price is going to be G22, which is this guy, G22, plus I16 is my shipping cost, which we'll get into in a second, plus, and in parentheses, it's going to be C22 times E22, which are these two lovely boxes saying $19.97 per hour. It took me 2 hours to create. So I want to add all of this together, and that's going to spit out for me $48.39. That's my wholesale price. My shipping weight, because I always weigh my items so that when it's in Squarespace or my website, like, it just automatically knows what to charge for shipping. So 0.75 of a pound with all the packaging and everything. And then my shipping cost and I'm not counting like shipping costs as in like to and from, I'm counting shipping costs as like what materials am I putting into it. And for that, I usually just ballpark it, but I'm thinking about like, okay, what kind of wrapping does it need? How many of my, my stickers, my business cards, my tissue paper. And it's just, you could list it all with supplies, but that's a lot of work. And if you can't tell, this is a work in progress. So is there room to grow here? Absolutely. Do you need to follow this perfectly? Absolutely not. But if you did need it, that's what I do. And I always make sure my cost and profit is at least, I like to make like at least 20 on a sale, but ideally to make the time and effort that these purses take, and like the amount of skin that I literally burn on these purses and just how much effort that they take, I want it to be at least 30% of my time. And I don't know if you can tell, I really like my whole numbers. I don't like to do that 0.98, 0.99 stuff. That's so nonsense to me. So anyway, minimum, this is my retail price and how much I would profit per purse. That's like after I get paid, right? Because that's included with the $48.39. So this is just like what I make per purse. And then my minimum sale price, which is the lowest amount that I'm willing to sell my purses for. And it might be harsh, but that's kind of the situation. And then I also have this as a table, and this table is massively helpful because it tells me if I want to do 10% off, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50% off. It tells me, right, like what would the price be at those sales. So I don't need to do any guesswork for this percentage. I can just look and say, okay, it's $48.39. What's gonna get me a little bit more than that, right? Like I want to make sure that when I price it for a sale, and I want my sales to be kind of worth it, I want to know, okay, what's gonna get me around $10. Whatever, you know what I mean. Anyway, so this is a helpful table to just have. None of this is including taxes because I have a different tax page, but that's my formulas, I should say, because it's kind of a lot. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. Don't be shy. Like, I know this is really tricky, and this is not doing small business anything is a really hard thing to do. And I just want people to have the tools they need to succeed. And that was a very Miss Jenna energy kind of thing to say. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys took something away from this. I hope it helped. Even if you don't ultimately use this model, you use something, and that's all that, like, if you took at least one thing away from this, I'm over the moon happy, and I'm here to teach, and I'm here to help. Let me know what I can help more with. I do have a blank version of this where I just have literally this, but empty, with instructions, because I sent it to another friend who also has a small business, and you should totally check her out. Her handle is @PaperDosai, and she's wonderful. But yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day, and thank you so much for watching. Mwah. Bye. This part's gonna get really nitty gritty, and I hope you stick with me. It's the reason I don't do it with tax. All of my materials here, I just kind of like messing with some ifs. Chill. Ooh, man. Always weigh my items. Boop, boop, boop. I16 is my shipping cost. We're just kind of living on the edge right now. Interest is dumb. My gosh. And actually don't know. Is there room to grow here? Absolutely. That's my formula. That was very Miss Jenna energy